Today I want to talk about belts, and specifically I want to go over everything you need to know to always choose the perfect belt. These are things you can keep in mind when you're purchasing a belt, and then also as you're styling it to give you exactly the look that you're going for. So let's get started. Let's start by going over the material first. So as with most things in my wardrobe, I gravitate towards natural materials. I really prefer leather when it comes to my belts, but faux leather and pleather is getting really great, and it's almost indistinguishable. If you do choose faux leather though, my recommendation is to make sure there's no cracking or peeling, and also going for a textured faux leather tends to make it look a little bit more realistic. It will also age a little bit better. Now, under the umbrella of leather or faux leather, you have a bunch of different textures to choose from, and of course you also have the exotic leathers. They're a little bit less common now. You can definitely find them, especially depending on where you're looking or if you're looking secondhand, but things like snakeskin and lizard, it's a little bit less often that you'll find that, and instead you're going to find something that's textured or embossed to look like that. And they're just as great. They tend to have a lower price point and last really well. And then also it's nice to consider suede. Suede is really beautiful when it comes to belts. I think it softens a belt ever so slightly, and whether that's real or faux suede, it looks so gorgeous. And I also think that suede is really nice if you're maybe gonna dip your toes into something that's not perfectly a neutral. So I have a navy suede belt that I love so much because it softens that navy even further. And you can only really tell that it's navy when I wear it with navy items, and I love it. And then of course you also have fabric belts. Fabric belts tend to feel really casual, but it's definitely an option. They also feel a little bit preppy. You can find them in needlepoint or kind of embossed with different things and emblems and colors. And it's a really fun way to kind of add some personality into your outfit. But it is a little bit limited because again, it is more casual. So now let's talk about choosing the perfect color for your belt. So neutrals are a very safe place to start with most things when it comes to your wardrobe, but especially with accessories. And especially if you're really not used to wearing a belt, going for something in either black or brown or tan is going to give you maximum versatility. And then of course you can also choose something like a statement color, something like pink or yellow or purple or navy blue like I mentioned earlier. And both are wonderful options, but the neutrals are going to be a little bit safer to start off. Now, as you're trying to figure out the neutral that's going to be perfect for your wardrobe, there are a couple things you can keep in mind. The first is you can match your belt to your shoes, and whatever shoes you have the most of in your wardrobe, that's a very safe place to start. So maybe that's black or brown for you. And matching these two together is very traditional, but it's also instantly cohesive. So it's a really nice way to start building out your outfits, especially as you start maybe experimenting with belts. But then also you can go one step further, and I think it's really nice if you match your belt to your pants. So you can see, like I'm doing today, this is matching my pants, and it's not a traditional neutral like a black or a brown, but it goes so seamlessly, and I have a lot of this color in my wardrobe. So I brought this belt into it knowing I could wear it with all of those shades. And then I also love this because if you choose a neutral that's maybe a little bit different from the colors you typically wear, you can use that to add some visual interest. So I like to pair this belt with darker colors because it breaks up the outfit, adds that punch, and it makes the belt more of a statement. So as we're talking about color, another thing that's really important to consider is the color of the hardware or the belt buckle and any visible metal on your belt. So the recommendation that I like to give is to match your jewelry. So whatever you tend to wear the most often, it's a really safe bet that that's going to go with most of your wardrobe, most of your outfits. So I always go towards gold, and I'll either do like a softer gold or a brighter gold, and then I'll have fun mixing and matching depending on the jewelry that I'm wearing that day. Now, if instead you really gravitate towards silver jewelry, you can again go for a silver buckle and choose maybe a bright one or a softer one, something a little bit more matte. It feels very current and very beautiful, very chic. And it's very easy to find right now. Gold has dominated the last couple of years, but silver is really popular now. So if you've been looking for a belt with a silver buckle, this is your opportunity to get the perfect one. So when I personally think of belts, I think you can approach it in two ways when it comes to the style. You can either go really traditional and very classic or more of a statement. And I tend to go a little bit more towards the statement. I obviously love classic belts. I think they have a perfect place in most wardrobes. But when I want to wear a belt, I kind of want that attention drawn to it. So I love things with oversized buckles and detailing, and I just love the visual interest that it adds to my outfits. So when it comes to choosing the perfect style for your individual wardrobe, I think you should definitely go by intuition and choose what you're naturally gravitated towards. Anything that's going to catch your eye, that's probably going to be a great addition to your wardrobe. But I wanted to give you a top overview of some very common belt styles with visuals to kind of point you in the right direction, and maybe you like something but you don't know what it's called, This can help you figure out what to search for and how to kind of find outfits surrounding these belt ideas and give you some direction. So the first one is definitely a classic belt. This is typically with no embossing, no detailing, very flat finish, either black, brown, or tan, and a very simple belt buckle, perfectly in proportion to the rest of the belt. The next one that I wanted to go over is a Western style belt. A Western style belt has Western influence, and that can be over the top or very subtle. And just by changing up the belt buckle, and instead of going for something really classic, something that's a little bit more oversized and slightly Western inspired, that's going to make that belt feel more Western and give it some personality. And then of course within Western belts you tend to have studs and grommets and things that make you feel like it's maybe the Southwest and equestrian, and those types of details are so great to add to your wardrobe because it adds instant visual interest, and it's also really popular right now, so very easy to find. The next belt style that I wanted to mention is an animal print style, and this is either something in a fabric or kind of a faux fur texture, or something that's more textured and embossed on leather, like I mentioned earlier with the snakeskin and the lizard. And I think this is a beautiful option. If you go for like a leopard print belt, it's so beautiful. It has that, when it has that faux fur texture to it, and it kind of softens it a little bit. And then snakeskin or faux snakeskin is something I personally really love. As you can tell, that's the texture on this belt. And you can go for something that's really bold or more subtle, like this one is pretty subtle. And I love that it adds some texture and some interest to the belt, but it's still very, very classic and very luxe looking. Definitely one of my personal favorites. And the last style that I wanted to include is a corset style, and a corset style belt literally looks like a corset, and these are really popular right now. They kind of come and go in popularity, but if you like this style, it's a good opportunity to pick it up now, and it's great for cinching blazers and dresses, and they tend to be bigger and, like I mentioned, look like a corset. So you can find a corset style belt that has like ties and laces or belt buckles and go as minimal or as exaggerative in the details as you want, and the main distinguishing feature here is that corset style. So the last thing that I wanted to go over is how to choose the perfect size for your belt. And this is something that I think is very easy to overthink, but it can be really simplified in a couple different ways. The first is to go with the size of your belt loops. So typically speaking, an average belt is going to be between 1 inch and 1.5 inches. It's a very classic size. It's going to go with most of your outfits, and if you keep the rest of the details very minimal, it's going to suit your outfits beautifully and be very timeless and not date because it's not over the top. It's not too big and it's not too small. Now another option is to go much smaller than that. So anything below 1 inch tends to be a really delicate, dainty belt. It's also this style that you tend to see more with like chain silhouettes and beading and pearls. I've got a couple that are like that. And they are basically a more dressy version of a belt. And you can definitely wear this to kind of impact the overall dressiness of the outfit. It feels a little bit more formal because it is so thin. And especially if you choose this in something like a gold or a silver, it's a really great way to cinch a blazer or a jacket, or again an oversized top or a sweater, and it breaks it up just enough without drawing too much attention. And then the last thing you can keep in mind when it comes to choosing the perfect size for your belt is your hemline. So typically speaking, you want things to be proportionate, and visually that tends to be the most pleasing to take in. You can of course do whatever you want, but if you want cohesiveness within your outfit, keeping the belt size in proportion to the length of your pants is a great way to do that. So like I mentioned, the 1 inch or the 1.5 inch, that's going to go with everything. You don't really have to overthink that at all. But if you go bigger and go for a much bolder belt, something over 1.5 inches, especially as you move into like 2 inches or bigger, and that corset style even, that is going to be a little bit better suited to longer pants. And visually, it just makes more sense. You're seeing a super long line in your pant silhouette or your skirt silhouette. And so by adding a bigger silhouette for your belt, it just kind of balances it out a little bit better. You can definitely go for a smaller option, but it tends to become a little bit dwarfed in the proportion. And then of course, likewise, if you're going with maybe a really short skirt or short shorts, going for a thinner belt is going to help compensate and balance that out even further. And what I really like about this also, especially with those skirts and those shorts, is we tend to wear a little bit more delicate sandals and shoes when we have those items in our wardrobe. So having a thinner belt is going to complement that really well, because keeping the proportion of the belt in relation to your shoes is another great way to keep it really harmonious. purchase. So those are some of my tips for always choosing the perfect belt for your wardrobe, how you can go about buying one that you love and then styling it. I would love to know what your favorite belt is, or if you don't wear belts at all, and any tips that you want to share like always. I'm going to link any of the belts that I personally have in the description box that are available. A lot of them are vintage or no longer sold, but I'll try my best to find some. And then I'll also include some alternatives and other recommendations for really great belt brands that you can check out. And like always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Have a great day.